And when we plant those seeds over and over, we
Mhm.
are cultivating this community garden that ripples out and grows and changes the world.
Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode. I am your host. And as always, I am so grateful to be here with you for another podcast. Now, if you are watching today, you may recognize this beautiful face beside me. And if you're listening, you're about to recognize the voice because this sister right here was one of my TEDx cohort. She was one of the TEDx Asheville speakers and we became fast friends. I absolutely loved her TEDx talk. It's out now. It will be in the show notes. It's already in the show notes for her first guest appearance. Ashley at Sweet Pea Lifestyle spoke about how dinner parties can change the world. And one of the things we talked about is how the most critical conversations, the most crucial conversations, they start at the dinner table. So that's what we are going to talk about today. Welcome, Ashley, back.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be back.
So good to have you. So, for anyone who might be new to our podcast, please introduce yourself and share who you are.
Yes, I am Ashley from Asheville, North Carolina, and I started Sweet Pea Lifestyle 18 years ago with the hope of sharing that dinner parties can change the world because I truly believe that a good meal, a good conversation, and good people around the table can make a difference wherever you go.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how you cultivate this in communities. And in our last conversation, we started to talk about this idea of, of loneliness. And we've had a lot of conversations, you and I, and then past podcast guest Jen Mayer, she was on, and we talked about friendship. And so there's a lot of intersection in our, I think in our talks.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes. Yes.
my talk was on repair
Yep.
and then Megan O'Malley, who was on the podcast recently, she talked about this idea of reimagining and that piece and how we do that together. So I want to talk a little bit about this idea of the most crucial conversations
Mm.
and why that is. Like, why is it that we gather around the dinner table first?
Yeah. Yeah. So when you think about it, the dinner table is this sacred place in our homes where we gather for meals, but we play games on it. We wrap presents on it. We plan trips on it. We sit there and we have those conversations that you don't really want to have, but you have them because you're sitting at the table. You don't choose to go to the couch most of the time. You say, let's meet at the table and have this conversation. And there is something so sacred about that anchor point in your home that I think everyone needs to be cultivating because it's being missed.
Yeah. When I think about
Mm,
this table where we come together to eat, breakfast table, dinner table, lunch table, it is the place of connection. I think that in general, as a culture and as a society, connect around food anyway,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And this is a place where we nourish ourselves, and there's a common value there. We're sitting down to nourish ourselves, we're sitting down to sort of relax. And then in that relaxation, we connect, we share ideas, we tell, like with me and my son, this is a time for us to like tell jokes, we
Yes.
bond. And
Yeah.
so, like you said, I think this is a place that becomes the keeper of hopes and dreams
Mhm.
when we're at the table. And I think that as we have evolved as a species, more and more people have come away from the table and they are starting to do things like eat in front of the couch or eat in front of television.
Yeah.
Quick note before we dive in. If you're a woman in healthcare leadership, and especially if you're a woman physician or clinician leader looking for a space that truly gets the challenges that we experience as women leaders in medicine, check out our REMAP cohort. It's 4 months, real community, real skills, and 22 CME credits. Link is in the show notes.
Yes.
And, if he's feeling sad about something, like what that looks like. Or the other day, he plays Minecraft. And so
Mm.
he's talking about building this house and how he's like thinking through how he wants to
Mm.
design a bunker and design a trap
Yeah.
door here and design. So his thinking brain is on it. He gets to share that with me and
Mm,
then go build. So
yeah.
there's like all of these things that happen around this structure.
When you start to think about people say if walls could talk, I
Hmm.
also think if tables could talk, like they hold a lot for us,
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. So, what is it about dinner parties specifically do you feel that amplifies? Because, I mean, this is what your talk was about,
Yeah.
this idea of dinner parties like changing the world. And I do believe that is the case. So, like, what is it specifically about having a gathering of people around the table?
Sure. So I think to answer that question, I'm going to take you back to my why I wanted to even do this talk.
Ooh.
And that is, I grew up in a very conservative, red, boxed in evangelical
Mhm.
community. And lots of things happened over the last several years, as you
Mm.
can imagine,
Right.
that I pulled back and I took a step back and I was like, whoa, if people would stop yelling at each other online or in other meetings or situations and instead meet at the table and talk face to face, human to human, diplomatically, kindly, without without animosity as much as you can,
Mhm.
the world might look a lot different and
Mhm.
we can all find our common ground. We don't have to agree. That's my
Right.
biggest thing. You do not have to agree, but you can always find common ground with any person in front of you. Because we say things online that we would not say in person. And I think if people would get off the screens and in front of each other
Yeah.
around a meal, and why the food part is this magical sprinkle of hope for everyone, is it immediately puts everyone, not to make a pun, but at the table
Yeah.
and you are serving each other by passing things around, asking for things, waiting your turn in conversation.
Mm.
You're controlling your face and your emotions when
Mhm.
people are talking and you want to disagree or agree or all those things. And that to me only happens when you have food as the anchor. You can do this around a coffee table,
Mhm.
but most of the time, it's gonna look a little different if you have a little plate of tea cakes and
Yeah.
some tea, as
Mhm.
opposed to just sitting around the coffee table on your couch. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that, and there's
Yeah.
something sacred and magical about that too, but when you add in that element of food, there's a little magical thing that happens.
Yeah, I think part of that magical thing is what's getting lit up in the brain when we eat
Mm,
pleasurable foods.
mhm, yep,
What's getting, like the neurotransmitters and the hormones that are getting released. Maybe we have some dopamine, which is a feel good hormone that's getting released. So we're satisfying our body, which helps us to be able to calm down, like helps our
yeah,
nervous system to be able to relax a little bit more when we're fed, when we're receiving that nourishment.
yeah,
I do think that what I hear you speaking to in terms of common ground is actually common values, the thing that we all want. And it's sometimes it can be very challenging to get there. And I think that it's important to be said just to avoid bypassing or stepping into Pollyanna land
yeah,
is that for some people, like that just is not possible.
right. Oh,
Like,
yeah,
because two
yep,
people have to want to find that common value
yeah,
and to be willing to have a conversation to even get there.
yep.
But if it's going to happen, probably the most likely place it's going to happen is at a table over some good food.
Yeah,
Right?
and I say that in my talk. You have to stay and choose the relationship.
Yeah.
There are people in my life that I do not agree with on, I would say, a good 90% of things, but I still adore them and I love them and I know it's reciprocated. And so I'm going to stay and I'm going to choose that relationship and I'm going to choose to talk about the things that I know we can talk about. And the other things,
Mhm.
that's okay. We don't need to. We can just, I'd rather not talk about that with you.
You bring up a good point. So when we come to the table, especially with people that we know we disagree with, it is an opportunity to set those differences to the side for the
Yeah.
moment to
Yeah.
connect.
Yep.
There's a term that I learned in a personal development seminar called bracketing. So you could just
Mm.
like bracket that, like, the brackets on the computer, just
Yeah.
put a
Ooh, I
bracket
love
around
that.
that, set it to the side and connect. That allows for the deepening of the relationship, which really allows for us to see each other's humanity.
Yes.
So while
Yes.
we might
Yes.
not agree, we can agree that we are human
Yep.
and that we all bleed red
Yes.
and that
We're all
once we
living this life for the first time.
and we can begin to I think when we lean into our humanity, I think it gives more compassion
Yep.
even for those things that we disagree about. And I really think that once we start to see each other's humanity, then it loosens the grip that we have on our own points of view, and we
Yes.
can start to see from others'
Yes.
points of view.
And one of my favorite ways to do that is going back to the food part. When you serve something and you're like, "Oh, this was my grandmother's recipe," somebody immediately would be like, "Oh, my grandmother made this," or, "Oh, my mom made this." And then you immediately start this common conversation,
Mhm.
and people start looking around the table and they're like, "I thought I was gonna not like this because I know we do not align." And yet
Mhm.
here we are having a, normal conversation
Yeah, I haven't it's like the food is
where
good.
no one's disagreeing.
Yeah, if
Shocker.
you can agree on one thing, you can agree on this is good.
Yes, exactly, exactly, and so I think a lot of people get hung up on the idea of having a dinner party with somebody they know they're not gonna align with, and I would urge them to do it anyways if you can, if you have that capacity
Mhm.
to do it anyways, because you never know what common ground you're gonna find, and when you bring it to the table, bring the common ground to the table, everyone softens. And they lean into that and take your cue and your example and meet you where you are.
Mhm, mhm. And here's the thing, if they don't, it's a really good practice in setting boundaries,
Yep.
regulating,
Mhm.
it's useful to be said that even if there is some tension, you can find ways around that to have a conversation. It becomes almost a negotiation.
Yeah.
I understand that n- we don't always want to be negotiating at the table. Like there's that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
But, like, if let's say big family gatherings, for instance, right? This is a place where you begin to negotiate, like, where's the middle ground? Where is
Right.
that? Right?
Yep.
What
Yep.
can we agree, even if we disagree on? What can we agree are the boundaries of our interactions, of our
Mhm.
conversations, so that we can have a pleasant time together? And it's
Yes.
good practice, actually good communication practice, if nothing else.
Yeah. And I would say this, like, once you do it, if you find that it's not terrible and semi-pleasant, you can continue to do that.
Mhm,
However, if you find, "No, I don't wanna do this again. I did not enjoy that. You know, fine, set that boundary, but know that you tried, that
mhm,
you didn't just write it off immediately and write that person off. You
mhm.
did give some effort and it wasn't given back, and so that's okay. You can try again. You don't have to just put up a hard line, but,
Yeah,
my biggest thing is be the invite.
yeah,
And it goes for relationships. It doesn't just mean inviting you to a dinner party, but that inviting them into this relationship that you are willing to have.
yeah.
But if they're not, then that's okay. That's all right.
Well, I think what that speaks to is like one of the other critical conversations that happen at the table, which is completion. Or many episodes ago, maybe
Yeah.
a year ago, maybe in like a season. What is this? We're in season 3, so maybe it was the end of season 1 or early season 2. I talked about it being okay to be complete with a relationship. And those are also conversations that are crucial conversations that happen at the table. Before we were recording, you were sharing with me about someone who says, I always have my meetings at the table, like because there's a level of informality with it. At the table almost is a symbol of safety.
Yeah.
It's a place
Yes.
where people can feel just a little safer. Even the crucial conversations around ending relationships happen around the table, around negotiating different terms for relationships
Yeah.
happen around the table.
It is this mind-boggling thing when you pull back the layers of the table and you're like, "Whoa, it's not just for eating."
Yes. Yeah.
A lot goes on there, and I
Mhm.
think we all need to invest a little more of our time around the table.
So let's talk about this table
Yeah.
and expand upon what the table really is or what it could be.
Yeah. I think it is such a symbol of hope,
Mhm,
and for me personally,
mhm,
it is my anchor in my day-to-day living because I spend so much time around it.
mhm,
I make a point to set my just for me, because I live by myself,
mhm,
but my meals are from the table, and I make sure to set my place for it like I'm hosting myself.
mhm.
For so many years, I ate around my coffee table or standing
Yeah.
at my counter like every person does, because you don't wanna use too many dishes. I've started making that ritualistic practice of
Mhm,
sitting myself at the table and just being and
mhm.
eating by myself. So then when I set it again for a group of people, it's another anchor of hope that I am setting it for other people and welcoming them into my home, into my life. And I'm loving them by making this food for them and serving them, and they're reciprocating that. I feel like I'm saying that word too much, but they're reciprocating that as well by coming to the table and enjoying and communicating in connection with one another.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, before we get back to the episode, I want to take a moment to share something close to my heart. 17 years ago, someone saw my leadership before I could see it myself. That experience changed everything for me. And that's exactly why I created the REMAP cohort. If you're a woman physician or leader in healthcare who's tired of being talked over, burned out from carrying conversations you don't have language for, or just craving a space where you don't have to explain being the only one in the room, this is for you. REMAP is a 4-month cohort, a small, intimate community for women, physicians, and leaders in healthcare, where you'll build real communication skills and community, navigate the hard stuff, and yes, earn CME credit in the process. 22 Category 1 AMA CME to be exact. Listen, you deserve a space that pours into you, not one that continues to extract from you. Find out more, reserve your spot, or schedule a discovery call at mindremappingacademy.com. Also, the link is in the show notes.
And you talk about a little bit in your talk about how the table doesn't necessarily have to be an
Yeah,
actual table.
no. It's just the space we create for
Yeah.
connection. So it can be anything. It can be your desk, it could be a coffee table, it can be the counter at the TJ Maxx. It can be a 30-second
Yeah.
place. It's not this big thing. It is nice for that personal anchor
Mhm.
sitting at the table when you're having an uncomfortable conversation.
Mhm.
It's a nice grounding thing to put between yourself,
Yeah.
but it's just a thing. It's not,
Yeah.
it's just a thing.
I love how you said it's a space that we create
Yeah.
because earlier, as we talked about this whole idea that, the table could be a representation of safety for people.
Mhm.
But what if we create the space of safety? That's the table. Like if we are creating, like you said, at the desk, you're at work
Yeah.
and someone is coming into your office, like the table is the desk, as you talked about. And we're creating this sort of space of safety to
Mhm.
have a challenging conversation for someone to come in and maybe be vulnerable about something that's going on or something they need help with,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
To receive feedback, it's the space that you create when someone comes in the office and you're sitting at the table or you're sitting at the table like, "Come on in,"
Yes,
right? And
yes, yes,
it is the space that you are, and I really appreciate
yeah.
that you create it in that way.
Thank you. It's something that anyone can do, just you have to be willing to do it. And you kind of have to change your mindset, I guess, and visualize instead of a desk where you're working and being productive and efficient and effective, in your mind, you can set it with candles and flowers and all the things you would put on your table and a nice, lovely meal, but it's just your desk.
Mhm, mhm.
But I think having that mindset would change a lot of people's demeanor and help them greet people with honesty. Yeah.
I'm wondering, as we talk about this idea of the table, right? Just the dinner parties or meal parties or like creating the space. How do you think this could impact organizations?
Mm. Now, I've never worked in the corporate world. However, I have this elusive idea of what it is like, I guess. And it seems very stuffy and like showy, I guess, maybe. And everyone is like putting up this fake facade of like, I can do better than you
Mhm,
and I am better than you. And everyone has these egos that are all crowded around the boardroom table. And I don't know, I feel like if people would get a little bit of hold on their ego and greet people in a kinder manner instead of thinking immediately that they're better than everyone else and setting their own space
mhm,
for
mhm.
connection across the boardroom table, it might look a little,
Mm.
people might be a little kinder.
I think about leaders and I think about departments and I think about divisions. There should be ways to cultivate this space. There should be maybe priority in cultivating this space inside of the workplace. And I think if we could cultivate more of this sort of space of the table, the space that creates that inclusive voice. Because I think that's
Yeah.
the other thing at the table is that it invites people's voices in. At the dinner table, most voices are invited in to speak, to contribute. It's like,
Yeah.
how's your
Yeah.
day going around the table?
Right.
Except for and we have dysfunctional families where everybody's yelling and people are trying to get their voices heard, depending on
Yes.
where you grow up. But for the most part,
Yeah.
it's like, inviting everyone into the conversation. So I think that metaphor of the table taken into the workplace could actually create the conditions of inviting people's voices in and creating, and that's another way of
Mm.
creating safety
Yeah. Yep.
and trust.
Yes. That's huge because that goes for a dinner table too. If you don't have that, it does start with trust. You do have to trust people a little bit, and maybe that trust is just that people are genuinely good and they're not out to be mean all the time.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's huge. It would be huge.
Yeah. So tell me what you're like, just in terms of what you're up to and what you're cultivating in the space around this conversation. And what are you most excited about it?
Yeah, so I started Sweet Peas Supper Club. It's a
Hmm.
Substack, and every month there's a little dinner party kit that you can use. But my favorite thing about it are there are conversation prompts, and they are meant to be talked about around a table, preferably with food.
Hmm.
And I've done these little dinner kits for years, but I had this idea that I wanted a collective group of people talking about the same conversations. And they're not superficial questions. They get pretty deep pretty fast, but they're also not anyone could answer them, anyone can ask them.
Hmm.
And you can take them in a direction that however you want, or you can keep them contained
Hmm.
and move on to the next one. But having these conversations in real life, human to human, face to face,
Hmm.
getting that again, that dopamine and oxytocin back and forth without your screen, without, your handy phone next to you where you're
Hmm.
Google jockeying every answer.
Yeah, that's funny.
It makes me so excited to know that people are gonna do that, and they're
Hmm.
choosing to cultivate relationships and connection and community.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that. Number one, I love what you're doing in terms of like, these sort of dinner party kits because again, this is something that can, I think, be done in community, in
Yeah.
faith-based organizations.
Yes.
It can be
Yep.
deployed on teams and organizations, like maybe if you have like team retreats,
Yeah.
it could be
Yes.
deployed in that way. So there's a lot of different potential uses for them and to cultivate those conversations and to open the door for including people's voices and then just connecting. I
Yeah.
think that's really great and it sounds very exciting.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm excited to see what happens with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely look forward to it. So, if there was, as we think about leaving the audience with something that they can move with, what would you say you would want them to take away from this conversation? And what would you want them to next do?
I want them to take away that there is hope in the anchor of the table. And when you decide to be the invite and invite someone to your table, you are planting that seed of transformation, not only in your life, but in their life. And when we plant those seeds over and over, we
Mhm.
are cultivating this community garden that ripples out and grows and changes the world.
Mm, love it. Love it. So, I think that you have brought some really nice pearls and some things for people to now go and do.
Yeah.
And if they're interested in following you or even just like getting one of your dinner party kits
Yep.
or whatever else you want them to be able
Yes.
to do, how can they reach you?
Sure. So I'm at Sweet Style on almost any platform, and Sweet Pea Supper Club is on Substack. You can also go to sweetpealifestyle.com. Yeah, come find me.
Awesome. All right. So y'all heard it. Sweet Pea Lifestyle. Go follow Ashley. And get yourself one of these dinner party kits because I think this could be the start of a movement here, right?
Yes.
Having dinner parties, cultivating conversation, cultivating connection, cultivating safe spaces amongst each other. And even when you disagree, or even when there's a tough conversation to have, being at the table can actually at least help you find those common values at the end
Mhm.
of the day. And so share this conversation with a friend, with a family, with a colleague, because we want to cultivate this movement of coming together at the table, whether it's the dinner table, the breakfast table, the lunch table, the desk, whatever the proverbial table is, to cultivate that connection on a regular basis. Of course, we always ask that you leave a review. And if this is your first time listening to our podcast, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you can show up for conversations just like this. So, with that, thank you so much, Ashley, for coming back.
Yay, thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Indeed, it was. And so, with that, you all, thank you for, all of you who listen on a weekly basis. Thank you for the people who are just coming because without you, there is no podcast. And until the next time we see you, stay empowered.